I was thinking about a conversation that I had one time with one of my best friends and his father, and how what we were saying relates to politics and what people believe. So, my friend's father is like the most hardcore Republican you've ever seen in your life. Like, this guy, probably loves Sean Hannity, or even to the right of Sean Hannity, and watches Fox News 24/7. And my friend himself is more of like, or was in the past, I don't know what he is now. He was more like a libertarian leaning kind of guy, liberal on social issues, conservative on economic issues. But he's always been like a thinking kind of guy. Like, after a while, he might change his position if presented with enough evidence, or if he reads enough about it. So we were driving back. I play golf. Used to do it all the time. Not as much anymore. I don't have as much time. But in the summer, we were driving back from a course after we just played. And I don't know how the conversation came up, but we were talking about sports and about how the human element oftentimes fucks it up when it comes to referees. Of course, you need referees. There's no doubt about that. But a game can be swung in one direction or another just by one mistake, or if you want to get conspiratorial, one wrong call, which is on purpose. We know with the NBA, they had that scandal where refs were rigging the game. And I remember we brought up one specific example, which had happened. It happened maybe 2 or 3 years ago now, maybe even longer now. Of there was this pitcher who pitched a perfect game, and on the last at bat, some guy hit it and managed to ruin the perfect game, but it was a bad call. It was the wrong call. And when you go to the replay, it wasn't even close. So the guy pitched a perfect game, but it doesn't go down in the history books as a perfect game. And I forgot what the rules were on the field, that they weren't allowed to review it, or they were, but they didn't. And then later on, the umpire himself said, yeah, kind of fucked that up. And so we said, like, there's got to be some sort of system to fix that. So, for example, in the NBA, one of the rules that they changed is that now if it's the last, I don't know how many minutes, 2 minutes or so, something like that, they can review it, on anything if it's just contested. So if it's knocked out and it's even somewhat close, okay, just check it real quick on the monitor, and then we'll determine it, just so we make sure we get it right. So there's a balancing act between making sure the pace of the game doesn't take forever and making sure you get the calls right. And so we were talking about, well, that needs to be fixed through some method or another. We didn't give specific examples. And my friend's father chimes in, and he says, well, no, part of the sports is part of sports at all, is in total, I should say, is that human element. The element where you can mess up, and the element where you can do a wrong call, and then it goes down in the history books as, the team that got the lucky call and ended up winning. Well, that's just how it is, and that's how it's going to be. And so we were pushing him on that further. We're like, but it was the wrong call. You're admitting it was the wrong call, so why would you be in favor of keeping the system the way it is and not trying to do even some tiny reform to fix it, to prevent the problem in the future? And then he doubled down immediately, and then even tripled and quadrupled down. He's like, well, no, that's part of the game, and that's part of the sports, and that's just how it is. And yeah, I like it like that. I prefer it like that. And me and my friend are looking at each other like, wait, hold on. Let's explain this to you again. And then we try to explain it again. And we said, so in this scenario, the guy pitched a perfect game and the ump fucked up. So it goes down in the books as not a perfect game, even though objectively it was a perfect game. You think that's preferable. You like that more. And he goes, yes, I do. And then he tried to change the subject real quick and talk about something else. And we were flabbergasted. And then I realized something. I had read a study a few weeks before that about, and this is a generality. It's one of those things where by and large it's true, but of course there's outliers. But there was a study on the psychology between liberals and conservatives that said conservatives are more likely to do this thing called system rationalization. And what that means is, in order to justify how they've lived their life and the decisions that they've made, and it helps them sleep at night, they determine that everything in the world is as it is supposed to be. So it's system rationalization. They look at the system and say, no matter what, doesn't matter how much logic, reason, evidence you put forth to say, this thing right here is fucked up, they do the system rationalization where they say, no, that's exactly how it's supposed to be. And then I realized, well, that explains a lot, man, because this is how they can look at, record income inequality and 76% of the American people living paycheck to paycheck, and medical bills being the number one cause of bankruptcy, and 45,000 people dying every year because they don't have basic health care. They could look at this entire system and say, no, it makes sense. It makes sense by definition. Everything is the way it is by nature. Nothing is nurture. Everything is natural. Everything that you've done in your life, stems from your biology. There's nothing about it that's cultural or environmental. Therefore, I don't have to think about it. And I don't have to try to actually change it. And that gives you the mental cop-out that you need to just be selfish and do what you want to do. Now, I don't want to be too harsh on my friend's dad, because I think he has a kind heart. I mean, I disagree with him on everything, but he has a kind heart. He's a nice guy when it comes down to it. If you talk about anything else other than politics, but it really gives you a clue into the difference between liberals and conservatives, and I think it's really telling.